Okay, so we're thinking about writing expressions for the bakery. We need to think about the information we were given about the bakery to answer these questions. And we're going to break it down into multiple steps before we write that equation. First, we're going to think about how many cups of butter are in one package. So when we're buying it to put into inventory, how much are in a package? So we're going to look back at our information about a package of butter. So there are 2 cups of butter in a package. Amount per package is 2 cups of butter. So how many cups of butter in a package? 2 cups. Okay. 2 cups of butter in a package. Okay. How many cups of butter to make 1 dozen cookies? Read that carefully. 1 dozen. So we're going to look back at our recipe. We're looking at butter. So it says 1 cup salted butter. Now we have to be careful. How much is in one recipe? How many dozen cookies does one recipe make? Hint. It's up here. It makes 3 dozen. So in 1 dozen, there is going to be 1/3 of a cup. Because there was 1 cup in 3 dozen, and for 1 dozen is just 1/3. Okay. So now with that information, we can write this equation. So we're writing an equation for how many packages of butter. Just like before, we're using a variable. We don't know how many packages of butter, so we're going to use B for the number of packages that we want to buy. And we're going to buy it based on the number of dozen cookies, D. So there's going to be a D in our equation. Okay. So first we want to think about how much do we need for any number of dozen. Just like before when we were buying bags of chips, every bag of chips cost $1.29. Every dozen cookies needs 1/3 cup of butter. 1/3 cup of butter, 1/3 cup of butter, 1/3 cup of butter. So we're going to do 1/3 times 1/3 times however many dozen cookies we need. If 10 classrooms order a dozen each, we need 10 dozen cookies. So 1/3 times 10, however many dozen times 1/3. So that's a D. It's a really bad D. Okay. Now that's how much butter we need. In each package, there are 2 cups of butter. 2 cups of butter in each package. So we are going to take the amount we need and divide it by how much is in each package. Okay, that might seem confusing at first, but it actually, we're going to explain it in a second and it'll make a lot more sense. So let's think about what this means. Okay, think back to the work that we did earlier in this packet. Let's picture what's happening. We have 1/3 of a cup of butter for each dozen. And we're dividing that into 2 parts. We're taking that third and we're dividing it into 2 parts. So these are thirds. And we're dividing each of those thirds into 2 parts. How many parts do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1/3 dozen divided by 2 is just 1/6 times the number of dozen that we need. That is the amount of packages of butter that we need to buy based on the number of dozen of cookies. Let's look at the math of that really quick to see how do we do that without drawing that picture. So we have 1/3 and we are dividing it by 2. Okay. When we have dividing a fraction, you might have heard before from maybe like 7th grade, maybe 6th grade. Keep, change, flip. All right. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to pretend that this 2 is over 1. 2 is over 1. And we're going to keep the first fraction. The first fraction is going to stay the same, 1/3. We're going to change the sign. Instead of division, we're going to multiply. Change that sign. That's the C. And then flip, we're going to flip that second fraction. So instead of 2 over 1, we're going to do 1 over 2. And watch what's going to happen. We're going to multiply the tops by the tops. 1 times 1. And the bottom times the bottom. 3 times 2, 6. Look, we ended up with the same thing. So when we're dividing fraction, we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay? So that's how we're going to divide the fractions. And at the end of the day, our equation over here, super helpful, because we're going to find out each week how many dozen packages of dozen cookies we need each week. We've got 50 orders. We need 1/6 times that when